Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back into the studio. Today we'll continue with the third version of my maquette for Kronos. This is a third scale version of the eventual final over life-size version. What you'll watch me do today is only about 1 day's work, around 2 to 3 hours of actual sculpting. Which I don't think we've ever done before here on the channel. Almost every video is several days compacted into one video. So today is going to be a little bit different in that regard. Apart from that, it's more of the same. You'll notice that I work around the figure, spending equal amounts of time from each separate view. The focus on my work today is going to be on the upper portion of the sculpture, in other words the torso or the ribcage section. This means that in order to observe that section of the sculpture on equal terms, I have to turn my model and sculpture so they face the same way, the same direction. In this case, I'm following the front plane of the ribcage, which I find by looking for the flat part on the upper chest of my model, and then I obviously represent that on my sculpture as well. You'll notice that this is twisted from the front plane of the pelvis. In other words, the ribcage is twisting on top of the pelvis in this pose. And so to observe the ribcage, I must face the front of it. If I were working on the lower section, anything related to the pelvis, I would have to make sure I face the front of the pelvis. I tend to work from the pelvis outwards in both directions, heading down into the legs and also up into the torso. So the reason I'm working on the ribcage today is simply because I've progressed my sculpture enough in the first 3 days of work to begin working on the upper ribcage section. But I don't simply jump around on my figure. I make sure I grow it outwards from the center. That means the center of the figure itself, which is the pelvis, and the internal center, in other words, the conceptual center, which is the center line. Everything grows from inwards to outwards. Let me quickly repeat the reason that I'm making this 1/3 scale maquette in the first place. With the design settled on in an earlier maquette made using photo reference and imagination, I can now progress to a larger 1/3 scale maquette that I'm using a model as reference for. 1/3 scale is large enough to where I can begin to accurately, or at least as accurately as I can possibly do, represent my model while making the adjustments to the proportions that I want to make in the over life-sized version. In 1/3 scale, I can measure also with a larger degree of accuracy than I can in a smaller scale like 1/5 scale, which was the scale of the previous maquette. So with the ability to take more accurate measurements from my model, I could begin to change the measurements to introduce changes in the proportions of my sculpture. The reason that I want to measure off my model accurately, or as accurately as I can, is that I want to reproduce the changes that I make in the larger than life version as well. So if I do not have accurate measurements, then I cannot know as exactly as I would like to know what the tweaking of the proportions will do to my sculpture. If I discovered that the changes being made make the sculpture look very strange, for example, then I can adjust and hopefully improve things at this scale, which is a lot more manageable than trying to improve things once you realize things are turning out weird at a large scale. Essentially, this is a test run, a double check to see if everything that I plan to do is going to work out the way I hope it will. And if it all goes well, I can progress with my plan, confident that a larger than life version will work out the way I want it to. So far, the changes seems to be going pretty okay. I like what the adjustments to proportions have done to the figure. The tweaks that I decided to make were increasing the height more than the width, and increasing the length of the torso a little bit more than I increased the length of the legs. A seated figure will very often appear squat, a little shrunken, short, or dwarf-like. And so to make sure the piece appears very imposing, I chose to make the torso a little bit longer so it appears closer in proportion to a person who's standing upright. The overall increase in height more than width came from wanting the sculpture to appear taller and more slender, thinner than my model. If I were to enlarge everything the same, I would simply get a larger version of my model, obviously. But increasing the height more than the width gave me the look that I'm after, which is the look of a taller person. The main issue that I'm attempting to tackle today is the widths related in and around my ribcage. From the front and the back view, these widths have come pretty close to being established properly, so that's good. But from the side views, however, the widths are lacking behind. You might observe that even though the figure is underbuilt at this stage, there's still a lot of information on the surface. There's clay meant to represent the muscle and the bones. So even though the figure is too narrow, too thin, there is still surface anatomy present. I personally find that I can use the surface anatomy to build more accurate contours on top of, using the information laid out previously to inform where the clay of my contours need to be placed. If I have no internal information present, I would be guessing where the contour needs to go also, which would undoubtedly lead to many mistakes and much backtracking. Establishing information deep underneath the surface allows me the opportunity to place contours correctly in space. Keep in mind that I only want to make decisions based on left, right, up and down. I do not want to make decisions based on depths. I do not concern myself with depth because trying to judge depth is futile and inaccurate. So by simply working from a different view and turning the depth of my contours into left and right, I'll find where the contours need to go. Then from the next view, I will add the clay to where it needs to go. So I can place the contours accurately in depth without having to worry too much about where that depth is, because that's been established from a different point of view. So in other words, the 4 views that I end up using, which are the front, the back, and the 2 sides, play a big role. They need to work together in order for my figure to come together properly. Each view leads to the next view, and I need to do work on the first view that I use that prepares me for the next view. In addition to preparing for my next view, I need to do the work that must be done from the view that I'm at in order for my outline to be properly represented. So from one view, I'm doing work on the view that I'm at, and I'm also doing preparatory work that I'll use once I progress to the next view. For the most part, you'll see me trying to add clay to progress my pieces. It's not that taking away clay isn't allowed or anything like that, but I'm purposefully always trying to progress my sculpture forward, and adding clay is progressing versus erasing, which is taking away, of course. It's always going to be easier to do the correct move to make the correct decision by using addition. Subtraction will often lead to mistakes and loss of control of the subject, which is obviously not ideal. Having said that, you will see me often enough going over the piece with a small rake tool, which obviously takes away clay. I use this tool to consolidate information, bring the forms that make up my piece to a higher resolution in order to see them more clearly and make further adjustments. I find that the rake is a very nice and quick way of getting this done. If you use a careful hand, a soft touch, and don't remove too much clay, you will hardly be flattening your work out or removing too much clay, erasing work that you've already done. But I won't let the rake tool have the final say. I always want that to be done by addition. The rake tool simply brings me some clarity, which is much needed as the many pieces of clay that I add on very quickly look like a TV filled with too much static or a picture that's very pixelated, a low resolution image. It becomes difficult to judge things this way, and sometimes a bit more resolution can help me further decide on what edits and adjustments need to be made. Pay close attention to the size of the pieces of clay that I'm adding. Sometimes I'll add bigger pieces of clay, and other times the pieces will be very small. What I'm trying to do is to match the size of the piece of clay that I add to the decision that's being made and the answer or the result I want said piece of clay to achieve. If the adjustment I'm looking for is small, then I'll add a small piece of clay. You'll see this a lot in the belly section, for example, where the work that needs to happen is quite small. It's small decisions, small changes. On the back, on the contrary, the work that needs to be done is large, and the pieces of clay added are larger, at least in the beginning. And they're larger because that matches the need for large decisions. Now, there's no formula here, of course. It's more of a philosophy, and it also ensures that an area that's closer to finish appear more finished. Larger pieces of clay will appear rougher and less delicate, less finished, while smaller pieces of clay will appear more delicate and closer to a finished look. The clay I add also have direction to it. It's added in a way so that it represents as closely as possible the direction of the muscles or the forms that I'm trying to represent from my model. How do I judge the direction of forms? Now that's a little tricky to answer. A lot of times I try to follow the directions of the muscle fibers, but it's not necessarily that scientific. The only thing that really matters is that visually I have to try and make it make sense. The most important thing is that it obviously makes sense to you, or to me, because I'm the only one who needs to understand it and make sense of it. You might also, perhaps, feel like when you watch my sculpture at this stage, that it visually makes sense. You understand what it is that you're looking at. There's a rhythm to the body and how forms travel across it that I think is somewhat universal. So when I represent the body, and I'm at this stage where things are a little rough and a little loose, but they still look like what they should, they still read visually, it's because the clay that I've applied makes sense and match what the model provides me with. And I believe this is somewhat universal. If it makes sense to me at this stage, it will probably make sense to most people looking at it as well. I think it's important to do it this way because the sculpture can become very difficult to judge if you don't do it this way. If the clay is added in a random fashion, if the shapes and forms do not visually represent accurately what your model provides you with, then the model and sculpture have drifted far apart, and comparing the two and finding answers to your questions become a lot harder than it needs to be. Having a sculpture that makes sense to you will often mean that it makes sense to others as well. If your sculpture makes sense at an early stage, you'll have an easier time making decisions. And we're all about having easy times around here. For this to properly work out, however, there needs to be a willingness to complete or to push a sculpture towards completion. Often, pieces end up lingering in the editing phase for too long for a lot of people, or the rough block-in is too loose and cannot be properly judged, and moving forward then becomes difficult because of this. Sometimes pushing a piece ahead means finding some clarity, not only finding what's right, but perhaps discovering what part of the block-in needs to be edited and adjusted, so essentially finding what's wrong. Some block-ins require a mountain of work to be done to them once you kind of begin resolving them, while others will require a lot less work. The better you become at blocking in with clarity and accuracy, the less painful bringing the block in further along towards completion it becomes. You'll see that the process becomes more linear with less going back and forth the better you get. Now, a little back and forth is obviously unavoidable. but to limit frustration, a linear a process is possible is optimal. To complete the rough block-in, I add clay in between the forms. If this was more than a small maquette, I might put a lot more effort in making the transitions more accurate, but to begin with, accuracy matters less actually than just having clay in the transitions. While adding clay to the transitions doesn't complete the sculpture, it does bring it closer to completion. All of a sudden, the termination point, the actual shape of all my forms, can now be more accurately observed, questioned, and undoubtedly improved upon. Without clay in the transitions, there is a vagueness to it all that means it cannot be accurately judged. Now, it can certainly be judged, and you should judge it, but if you're after accuracy at a very high level, you won't necessarily be able to achieve it before there is clay between the forms representing the transitions of your model. In some cases, this step, and especially in larger pieces, this step represents a huge amount of the time spent sculpting for me. How the forms fit together can take quite a while to address to perfection, or to even get as close to perfection as I can possibly come at least. An increase in scale would more obviously reveal a lot of mistakes, a lot of things that this small scale does not reveal. Now that is of course considered and planned for. I do not plan for the same level of accuracy, the same level of details in this sculpture as I do in the over life-sized version. Though I certainly plan to take some time and finish this piece properly. Having spent 4 days already, I do think I owe this piece that much. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did and want to learn sculpture from me, or just support the channel, check out my Patreon page. I give feedback and critique on people's work, and we talk about whatever you need help with in your sculpting endeavors. And right now there is exclusive sculpting video content on my Patreon. The first series we are embarking on is the Beginner's Guide to Figure Sculpture. I'm super excited to finally be creating exclusive content for Patreon, and I hope you are too, and we'll take a look. The link to my Patreon is in the description below. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for a new video next Thursday. Hit the subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever a new video comes out. If you enjoyed the video, click the like button and share it with your friends and family. It helps me out a lot. Thank you for watching, stay creative, and I hope to see you here in the next one.